Whether we want this to be true or not, people do judge us by the way we communicate. They judge us by the way we look, by the way we carry ourselves, by the way we articulate our thoughts. And sometimes and often this judgment is unconscious, right? We are making an impression on people, both on a conscious level and an unconscious level. You've probably heard, or you've probably said this, or at least thought this yourself, that person doesn't give me a good vibe. I don't like their vibes, right? Well, what's happening there? What's happening is there's something about, if you will, the vibrations that that person is sending out, something about their personality, their persona, the way that they carry themselves, the impression that they're making, that they're sending out, that you are receiving, that you're perceiving, and it's causing you to think or feel in a certain way, right? It's just kind of throwing you off a little bit. Or someone is communicating and you're just not understanding what in the world they're saying. You can't follow them. And it might be because they're speaking too fast, or maybe you look at them and you feel like, they don't seem very confident in what they're saying, right? And it might be because of the way they're looking, their eye contact, their body language, or once again, they're rushing, they're speeding through their information. And so your perception of them is that they don't seem or sound very confident. And so that person is going to have a very hard time influencing you or persuading you. You're not going to really want to listen to that person that much, right? So the way that we speak, the way that we carry ourselves, right, the way that we articulate our thoughts does make an impact on the people who are around us, on the people who hear us. So in today's session, we're going to look at the very first part of the 5 characteristics or 5 skills that we're going to be teaching you. And to help you remember all 5 of these, we're using the word carve, C-A-R-V-E, C-A-R-V-E. And obviously, each letter represents a characteristic or a skill that you can learn, right? And that you can learn relatively quickly. So I have people that I'm working with, and just by sharing some of this, they are able to implement it in their meetings. In fact, they have been able to implement it in their meetings, and it's helped to shift their thinking, to take them out of their own minds, out of their own heads, and focus on communicating, on articulating their thoughts much more smoothly, much more clearly, much more confidently. So today, we're going to look at the first letter, which is clear. The first letter is C, and it represents the characteristics or skill of clear or clarity. So you want to be able to articulate your thoughts clearly. Now, what does that mean, and how do you do it? And why is it important? When you articulate your thoughts clearly, we want to look at this as though you're doing this from 2 different aspects. 2 different aspects. And here's what I mean. Number 1, the structure of how you're communicating or articulating your thoughts, how you've structured your thoughts logically, and then the style. So the 2 aspects are structure and style, or style and structure, right? So when we talk about style, we're talking about how you speak. Do you mumble? Do you speak too fast? Do you have a heavy accent? Now, we're not talking about eliminating your accent, because accents are beautiful, right? It makes the world rich. So you can have an accent, it can even be thick, but you can still communicate clearly, okay? So your style of speaking is the speed, right? How you enunciate. If you have an accent, are you slowing down and articulating? The technical word is enunciating, but I'm going to use the word articulate. Are you articulating your words in such a way that people can still understand it, right? So we're talking about style. Are you finishing off your words, or are you chopping them off? And then let's talk about structure. Have you structured your thoughts where people can follow you, or are you all over the place? Okay. So let's talk about those a little bit in just a minute, but let's talk about why it's important to be clear. When you are speaking in a meeting, in an interview, in a presentation, in a conversation, and the person isn't able to understand you stylistically, you're speaking too fast, you have an accent, I can't understand what in the world you're saying, or you're mumbling, or you're speaking too loud, or you're speaking too low, right? I used to have the problem of speaking too low, and I still am a soft-spoken person, and so people have to say, can you speak up? Okay, so I learned how to speak up, how to project better. But when you're speaking, if someone's not able to understand you, or if they can't hear you, right, then it's difficult for them to listen to you. So if they're not able to hear you for whatever reason, or they're not able to understand you, then it's very difficult for them to listen, to follow what you're saying. They'll easily get distracted. They'll be on their phones. They'll be checking their email. They'll be thinking about what they're going to do for lunch, right, while you're speaking. If you are speaking in a monotone manner and you're just dragging on and you're just speaking, you're going to be boring people to death. Okay, so the clarity of how you speak, both stylistically and structurally, are very, very important. And what it does is it helps people to want to listen to you, right? Maybe they can hear you, but they might not want to listen to you. So if you are stuttering, stammering, blocking, you're having to change words around, you're not using the best words to describe or explain exactly what you want to say because you feel like, I'm not going to be able to say that word. And so it makes it difficult for people to follow you, to listen to you. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, well, if I'm stammering or stuttering or blocking or whatever it is, that's not really my fault. That's something I grew up with. No, it might not be your fault, but guess what? It is your responsibility to do something about it. So first you have to know that you can do something about your speech. I've worked with people who range from severe stutterers, they've been that way their whole life, all the way up to people who don't stutter at all. They don't stutter at all. They just want to improve the way they communicate, especially in high pressure speaking situations. And what I can tell you is that it doesn't matter the severity or degree of your speech, of your challenge, you can improve dramatically. I see people go from severe stuttering, making faces and so forth, all the way up to speaking smoothly. It doesn't mean their speech is 100% fluent 100% of the time. No one's speech is. Mine isn't. No one else's. Everyone has this fluency from time to time. But you can do something about your speech, and in a relatively short period of time, we're just talking about a few months, you can completely transform your speech. Okay? So clarity is important so that people can listen to you and follow what you're saying and therefore be influenced by you. Now, why is it important that people are willing and can be influenced by you? Well, let me give you an example. I'm working with a guy who works at Apple, and he was in a meeting, and I shared this story before, but he was in a meeting, and when he initially presented his request, hey, I need support for this project, the person in charge of the other team said, no, we just don't have the resources. And using the skills that he learned, he said, I was able to completely turn that person around, and by the end of the meeting, I had the resources that I needed. And he said, prior to Pro 90D, I don't think I would have been able to do that. So just think about this. Super intelligent guy, really smart guy, leading a team, and he's able to go in and someone's already saying no, but because of his communication skills, right, his ability to articulate his thoughts persuasively, he was able to influence the other guy in such a way that he said, yes, okay, I'm going to give you at least some of the resources that you need. That's just one example out of probably thousands. So his ability to clearly articulate his request, the reasoning behind it, why this was important, his ability to do that was able to get him the resources that he needed. Your ability to communicate clearly is going to determine whether or not you get promotions, if you're not working, whether or not you get the kinds of jobs that you want, whether or not you're able to influence your colleagues, because those are the people who are going to be recommending you, right? So your employers, your colleagues, your clients, and your customers. You need to be able to clearly articulate your thoughts. So remember, clearly articulating your thoughts has two aspects, two dimensions, if you will. Stylistically, so we're talking about speaking smoothly in a way that people want to listen to you, and we'll talk a little bit in just a minute about some of the characteristics of smooth speech, and structurally, okay, and we'll talk just a little bit about that. So let's talk about style. In Pro 90D, we have something called proactive speaking skills, and I'll just mention some of them here, but I want to encourage those of you who want to take this to the next level to either book an appointment to work with me one-on-one, which is the fastest way. If you're a professional, you want to work with me one-on-one, it's the fastest way. But in the meantime, you can enroll in our self-study course and learn at a deeper level some of the things that I'm talking about, all the things I'm talking about now and more. So there are certain proactive speaking skills, skills that people use who speak well. So one of those skills obviously has to do with body language, right? Using your hands, using your body, using your face, moving around. I don't move around a lot on video, but when I'm working with people or I'm speaking to a group, I'll move into the audience, I'll move around. I just don't do it on video. You can do it on video, I just don't like to. So you'll also see me sometimes with a whiteboard and I'm drawing stuff. So body language, right? Posture. Also, voice inflection. Are you modulating the tone of your voice up and down, or are you speaking relatively monotone? Okay, that impacts, and that's a part of your style. How you emphasize certain things. How do you highlight certain concepts, certain words when you're speaking? How you emphasize certain things. How you articulate. Do you use your mouth when you're speaking, or do you just kind of let the words come, right? Are you using your mouth? Again, the technical term for this is enunciation, but we just use articulate. Are you able to articulate well so that people can clearly understand the words that you're saying? Your speed. Do you vary your speed? Do you speak dynamically? You don't want to speak at the same pace the whole time, right? People will drone out, they'll just go to sleep, right, and drift off. Are you changing your pacing? Not speaking too fast, not speaking too slow. Changing your pacing while you speak. So those are just some of the skills that you'll learn. Do you finish? Do you finish your words? Finish your words, right? You finish your words. Do you chop your words off? Do you finish your thoughts? Or do you interrupt yourself? No, I don't want to, well, wait a minute. Okay, so, what we'd like to do is, well, okay, right? Are you confusing people by not finishing out your thoughts? Sometimes just finishing your thoughts or finishing your words can make your speech smoother, which means it can also make your speech more clear. You have greater clarity if you just finish what you're saying. So we teach all of this in Pro 90D in the system. So clarity is very important. We just talked a little bit about style. We talked about some very specific things that you can do in terms of style. Let's talk about structure. Do you structure your thoughts in a way that people are able to follow it? Some of you have heard me talk about Vic and Rick. You can check out some of our other videos, but the thing that I want to say about structure right now is that you structure your thoughts in such a way that people can follow your logic, that they don't get lost. So one important thing that kind of crosses over between style and structure is finishing your thoughts, right? That can help people follow you better. But the other thing is to use what we call categorization and enumeration, right? We also have something called question and answer. So you structure your thoughts in such a way that you say, we're going to talk about 5 skills or 5 characteristics that will help you capture and hold the top spot in the minds of the people who listen to you. 5 skills or 5 characteristics. And the first one is clear speech or clarity. So what did I just do? I said 5 characteristics, right? 5 skills, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I put a number to it. Skills, characteristics, that's the category. And then I said, and the first one is this. So by using that kind of a structure, which is so very simple, people use it all the time, but often people don't use it, surprisingly, it helps make the logic of what you're saying easier to follow. It makes what you're saying clear. Oh, he's going to talk about 5 skills. Okay, great. What's the first one? What's the second one? What's the third one? What's the fifth one? So they can follow what you're saying easier. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Michael, how does this help me if I stutter or if I stammer or if I block or if I get nervous under pressure? Well, one of the reasons that this can help you is when you're confident that you're able to communicate clearly, you feel freer, you feel more relaxed, you feel more confident. When you feel more confident, you don't get as anxious and as nervous, and you often will speak better. So when I used to teach and when I used to preach or I would do a workshop or something, I felt more confident because I had a solid structure because of my speaking style. I felt more confident, so I spoke smoother. So style and structure both impact your clarity. And if you know that you're speaking clearly, you can see it on the faces of the people who are looking at you. You can see that they're following you, they're nodding, they're taking notes or they're asking questions, they're paying attention, they're listening, right, which opens up their ability to be influenced. You feel better about your speech because you know that you're engaging and that you're interacting with them. And when you feel better about your speech, you project that and other people feel good. They feel better about your speech. Does that make sense? So believe it or not, this can and does impact your smoothness. Your smoothness. It does. It's one of the elements that impacts your smoothness. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up with this idea of speaking clearly or clarity. We talked about what? 2 aspects or 2 dimensions to clarity. What was the first one? The first one was, they both start with an S. Style. Exactly, style. We explained what style is, so you can go back and watch that. And then we talked about structure, how you structure. I've structured my presentation today using that structure. 5 skills, 5 characteristics. The first one is this, right? So that's a structure. We also talked about finishing your thoughts and finishing your words. A couple of things. All of these things are contained in the Pro 90D Smooth Speech System. So, once again, if you are a professional and you have upcoming meetings or you want to apply for a higher position, you have upcoming presentations or important conversations, and you've been out there watching videos for months or years and you've been kind of working on your own and you're getting some results but they're inconsistent or they're not lasting, you are going to want to work with me privately. This can accelerate your progress by at least 10 times. What do I mean by this? Well, I've seen people working on their own for months or years, right? In any program, in my program, whatever. And when they work with me one-on-one, they get further in a couple of months than they have in a couple of years. And the reason for that is greater accountability. There's customized and personalized feedback, which can save you months and years, right? And there's encouragement when people kind of start getting down or they feel like something is not working. It can help to keep you encouraged so that you keep going and you keep doing the things that you need to do long enough so that you can see the results that you're looking for. Does that make sense? So I want to invite you, if you're ready, to book an assessment session with me, but only if you're ready, book an assessment session with me so that we can talk about how to take your speech to that next level. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. Tune in for the next one where we look at the A in carve. Okay? We'll see you soon.